How much does autobiography come into your films? One of them seems to be very autobiographical, and now you've made Little Women, which seems not to be. Is that true?
Well, I think for me, for Little Women, that book meant so much to me, and it was a book that I don't ever remember not knowing who the March sisters were. I always knew who Jo March was. I always knew those sisters and that mother and those adventures, and they so became part of the inner landscape of myself. They felt like my memories. So in a lot of ways, it didn't feel that different to me. The book had become part of me. It feels quite personal. I mean, it feels like autobiography. Also, I mean, the scene that I choose to sort of open my film with, I start with them as adults, and then childhood becomes a thing that you go back to because it was the last time everyone was together, and that you were happy in this way, and you felt like anything was possible. And adults have more limited options, and I felt like if I could somehow address that reflexivity in the narrative of my film, it both mirrors what I go through, because you're always making something that's away from you but part of you. And then, you know, the scene of her trying to sell a story, I took that almost verbatim from the book, because, you know, I know exactly what that is, to sit in front of somebody and try to sell them a story. And they're telling me I need to make changes, and I'm figuring out how many changes I can make and still live with myself, but I need the money. You know, that's something I understand, and also these characters are so close to me. So, I don't know, I sort of felt like I needed a chart to explain that, but I think I got it across.
I think Spielberg looked at the film and gave you some editing notes.
Yes, he did.
What notes did he give you?
Oh, he gave me great notes. I met him over the course of a couple of years ago. He had the Post, and we were both talking, and I found him to be so generous and interesting and totally willing to talk to me. And I was going to go prep Little Women, and he shot Lincoln, and it took place the same year. I mean, it's the same world. And he opened up every piece of research he had done. He had how he decided to light things, given that it was all candlelight, how he decided to shoot interiors. He opened the camera he actually shot Jurassic Park with, but he had me smell celluloid, because he said, you have to shoot on film. It smells different. He's like, you cannot shoot a story that takes place in 1861 digitally. You just can't. I won't let you do it. And so I actually did end up shooting on film, and when Tom Rothman asked me why, I said, I'm sorry, Steven Spielberg had me smell a camera. But then, you know, so I showed him the film, and what he did, which was so incredible, is that he talked to me for a long time, and what he did was he gave it back to me. He talked through the film from his memory and gave his notes as he remembered the movie. So it's almost like he did the reverse back to me, of giving me back the movie. And he gave me, you know, I ran different ideas by him, and he gave me, and then he'd give it back to me. He'd say, okay, so what you're saying is, and then he'd explain it again to me. And it's just, it feels like such an honor to be able to talk with someone who thinks about how do we tell stories and how do we bring people into the stories. And it's not one thing, it's everything about how you talk through it and communicate it. I like set, and I like being on set. I mean, I feel very deeply that movies are made in prep. By the time you're on set, it's too late, it's happening. I feel quite vividly that every second you spend doing one thing is a second you don't spend doing something else. Now, that's true for your entire life, but I feel it most vividly on a film set. And kind of always is asking, is it good enough? You never feel like you got it, but maybe it's going to be good enough. And I don't know, whatever the negotiation of time and art is, it's absurd to have a timed art form.
Exactly.
But it's also beautiful to have a timed art form, because we're all on a timer.
Exactly,
I mean, in the big timer.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Hi, I'm Lulu Wong.
My name is Fernando Morales.
I'm Greta Gerwig.
I am Noah Baumbach.
Thank you for watching the Hollywood Reporter.
The Hollywood Reporter Roundtables.
Roundtables on YouTube.
On YouTube.